Okay, so as we know, yesterday evening, afternoonish or whatever, President Trump reversed the execution of the tariffs that he said was going to go in place. All of them except for China. And so later on that evening, we got some more information about what led to this drastic decision. Outside of the fact that they was clearly scheming and skimming, there's something I want to be able to tell you about. Bonds, okay? So bonds were basically introduced in the 1960s, and essentially they are guaranteed investment funds. Think of it like this. So basically what it is that you invest in the government. So let's say you're going to invest in the government $1,000, right? Now, you invest that $1,000 for a certain period of time in order for you to get the full $1,000 back. Okay, so it could be anywhere between, I do believe it's like 5 years. Some of them used to be 5 years, but it's like 10, 30 years, replace the 25 years, etc. A lot of us younger folks, they'll be in the stock market, but they won't do the bonds. But bonds were things that people used to buy a lot of, and there's different price amounts for the bonds. Now, come to find out, because of how badly the markets and stuff was doing, it was causing for the bond's worth to fall. That's something totally different, because essentially what is failing is the investment in the actual government. So, Tori, why is this important? It's because they were saying that they were using tariffs to be able to pay on the national debt and be able to bring the national debt down, also to be able to help with the tax cuts. Well, the issue then becomes that you're creating and you're adding more to debt and also causing major instability because of the fact that these bonds are investments into the government. So now what we're saying is that these bonds really aren't worth what they're supposed to be worth, and people started cashing in their bonds. Okay, so now the government is bleeding money. The government is bleeding money. His top financial advisors and economists was like, bro, like you're tearing at the fabric of the U.S. financial system. You must stop. Because typically, whenever the stock markets are going crazy and in a haywire, people begin to invest in bonds. But because of the fact that it was the government that was causing the stock market to go crazy, people started yanking their bonds and also not investing in the stock market at the same time. So that's how they ended up forcing him to quit, because apparently he wasn't finna stop. Apparently, he was really just about to keep going. And part of the reason why you keep going is because of the short sale. And so there were a lot of people in the comments that were saying, well, everybody could have been a part of it, X, Y, and Z, but this is why everybody cannot be a part of it. Thing one, if you have a 401k, it is invested in the stock market. But the thing about those that have 401ks is that they are paid enough to have enough money left over to be able to invest in the stock market. That is typically the shrinking middle class. Thing number two, if you invest outright into the stock market, once again, at minimum, you are the middle class. And you have enough money after you pay your bills to then invest it inside of the stock market. And so otherwise, if you do not have those extra funds and things like that, yes, you may not be able to invest inside the stock market, but it also means that you cannot participate in short selling, right? So yes, could you buy like $10 and $20 and $50 like stocks? Absolutely you could, but the stock is plummeting. So you have to invest enough money to ride the rocket down in order to come back up. But typically for those that don't have a lot of money, like the wealthy, on the way down, you lose all your money. That's why mostly rich people buy the dip and can afford to then ride the rocket down and end up coming up. But long and short, America's bonds is the reason why we were safe. And when you take a look at the billionaires that lost the most money, there's only one that didn't, okay? And the reason why he didn't is because of the fact that when he saw that the stock market was going to be doing what the stock market was going to be doing, because once again, Trump announced that he was going to be having tariffs from get-go. So once Warren Buffett saw, oh, that's what's going to be going on, he started investing in and what they would call like old school qualities, like physical stuff, not technology, physical stuff. That's when you start investing in gold and bonds and things like that, because those don't decrease like that, not in this type of climate. And that's why he's the only one that made 11 point whatever billion dollars, and all these other rich people, Bezos, all these other billionaires, you know, as we already know, Elon losing money. All of them lost a lot of money. Billions of money is what they lost. Crazy.
Happening now, the euro and Japanese yen are surging as the US dollar collapses. The bond market is imploding once again. Let's discuss. The euro is now up as much as 1.6% as the world loses faith in the United States dollar. Trump's trade war is encouraging investors to put their money in Europe instead of the United States, and the United States is looking more like Argentina's failed economy at this very moment. The US 10-year Treasury yield is spiking once again, a sign of a collapsing US economy and an indicator that interest rates on mortgages and other loans are about to skyrocket. In fact, the 30-year mortgage rate is now back up to 7.37%, the highest level in 2 months. U.S. stock futures are also falling. We're going to continue to follow this and more, so make sure you're following our account and add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
So he called off the tariffs to get all these countries to come to the table. Well, name one country. Just one. Just one. Y'all can pick any country you want. Just say that they called. Y'all know don't nobody believe that. You know nobody believes that, okay? The vibe that you're giving is, yes, I have a girlfriend, but she goes to a different school. I want to know. I do. Freedom of Information, right? Freedom of Information Act. I have the right to know what is going on with the government as a citizen. If these countries actually came to the table to negotiate, why did you pause the tariffs before the New Deal was set into place? If these countries came to negotiate, why has the European Union said that they support what China is doing? If these countries have come to the table, why are we talking about the fact that the treasury bond market was in disarray, which is actually the backbone of our economic stability? We lose treasury bonds, we lose the economy. When the president was giving his speech and calling everybody yippee, saying everybody was getting a little yippee, had those countries called yet? When the trade advisor was getting read to the ground in Congress by Representative Horsford, had those countries called yet? And if those countries called, what are the new parameters? What's the new deal that's going to be in place? In fact, what was the old deal that you had before? I'm willing to bet the White House has no answers to any of these questions, but they don't expect anybody that supports them to ask. They expect all of you to sit there and go, trust the process. When you're losing your money, all right, when you are hemorrhaging money, they are telling you that it's patriotic. You are serving the country. And when they make a mistake and get caught in it, they go, this is the art of the deal. So what is reality? Honestly, because the only thing that I can see is reality is a place that MAGA, Trump voters, they don't want to live there. They desperately want to live in this world, this utopia that they've set up in their minds where DEI doesn't exist, rights for all these people doesn't exist, and everything that has ever benefited this country was done by a Christian, white, European man. They are so desperate to live in that society. Meanwhile, every single decision that has come out of that society has done nothing but make life worse. And they have no information. The only source that they have, the only source they have continued to cite when explaining themselves to the American people is trust me, bro. I don't know about y'all, but I can't plan for the future of my family based off of a trust me, bro. We need answers. We need details, and the White House refuses to give them. That should make everybody concerned.
So that 84% tariff from China seems to have scared the little fuckers in the White House. And now he's back down. Now there's another 90-day pause. And he says there's 70 countries that want to negotiate. How come you haven't heard any of these 70 countries' leaders on any television in America saying, yes, we want to negotiate? How come? Because this White House are a bunch of liars. The Treasury Secretary for Trump is a liar. The Commerce Secretary is a liar. They are all liars. You know what is happening? China is not buying U.S. treasuries. They're dumping their treasuries. I'm telling you, the way to get America's and the American people to say enough is enough is to dump all the U.S. treasuries. The rest of the world owns our debt. Nobody in the world has to put up with this shit. They're just prolonging what they need to do. Dump all of the treasuries and see what happens. For those of you who do not know, the United States has a $960 billion deficit with trade. Yes, we do. But you think that Donald Trump is so smart that he was willing to wipe out $6 trillion of Americans' worth for a $960 billion trade deficit. Now do you understand why his casinos went bankrupt? The math ain't mathin'. The man is insane, and so is Peter Navarro. They will not win this war with China. I keep telling you, Americans, there's only 340 million people in America. There is 8 billion people on the planet. So what if they don't export stuff to us? What, you think that Trump is going to go and guard the ports of every nation so that China cannot export to them? Really? I have never seen so much upheaval, mismanagement, theft, and a total lack of understanding of world economics. But yeah, this is what you voted for. This bullshit that the rest of us Americans have to put up with on a daily basis. And you used to call Joe Sleepy Joe. Yeah, I could sleep at night and not worry that the stock market is going to swing 2,000 or 3,000 points in an hour. But this is what you wanted. You wanted this chaos. Life is not about chaos. Life is not about this chaos. It's time to get rid of these people. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent in front of the White House saying, don't retaliate and you will be rewarded. Well, as a normal human being, that is not from a position of strength. They are begging the world not to retaliate. What did they expect? For the entire world to lay down to the white privileged assholes that are sitting inside of the White House? Is that what they expected? If that isn't white privilege, I don't know what white privilege is. Don't retaliate and you will be rewarded. Fuck that shit. And you reporters should do your job. You need to ask them, who are these 75 countries? Which leaders contacted them? Who? And when is a negotiation going to take place? Stop listening to these people. They are cons, con men, just like the one that's in the White House.